Hello students, this is Dr. Pratheesh, Head Department of Biochemistry. Students, today we are going to discuss about applications of bioinformatics. So bioinformatics is a field of science that is mainly focusing on the development of databases and analytical tools. So these analytical tools are used to analyze and interpret biological data. So we can develop a biological database at the end, and this is done using various computational methods and approaches. So as we have discussed earlier, this particular subject bioinformatics is functional only with the help of lot of other subjects contributions, so like molecular biology, computer science, information technology. So a lot of subjects contribute to the proper working of this particular subject bioinformatics. So you'll be getting support from molecular biologists, mathematicians, statisticians, pathologists, then IT professionals, data analysts. So all these people contribute for the development of biological data that can be useful for the human race. Now let us see which all are the fields that are benefited by the subject bioinformatics, or let us see how this subject is connected to different fields. So first let us see about biotechnology. So biotechnology is an emerging field where you have a lot of application where you take genetic material, that is a DNA, and manipulate it and modify it like in a recombinant DNA technology and also. So if you want to go for a kind of research work or any activity related to your genetic material, the first thing you have to know is that you should know the sequence of this particular genetic material, right? So to from where you will get this particular information, so that is available in biological databases. So where do you have this, from where you get these biological databases and data banks? That comes next. So it is an application of bioinformatics subjects. So bioinformatics provides us biological databases that can be accessed by biotechnologists for their research activities. So the next field is at CAD, computer aided drug design. So what is computer aided drug design? We know that nowadays we are facing a lot of emerging diseases, and we have to come up with cure or drugs against these particular diseases, and we have to develop these drugs in such a way that it is found to be very effective, and we have to do it in a limited period of time also. So like what we are facing right now, we are under the SARS-CoV-2 virus attack, that is the COVID-19 disease, and we are trying, all the research community across the globe is fighting or working day and night to find a cure for this particular disease. So this is help with the help of bioinformatic tools. So computer aided 3D modeling and drug designing techniques are used to develop medicines or drugs that are capable of curing many diseases, especially the emerging diseases like COVID-19. Then what happens in case of proteomics and genomics? So like I hope you know the full form of proteomics and genomics, etc. Proteomics means the understanding the whole protein that are produced within an organism, that is proteomics. The study of the total proteins that are produced in an organism is called as proteomics. Likewise, genomics means understand the genetic material of the whole genetic material of an organism. Is that particular study is called genomics. And likewise, you have more omics like transcriptomics, uh, proteolytomics, like that. And a lot of genomic functions are available. Okay. Then in molecular biology, like biotechnology, molecular biology also deal with understanding the biomolecules structure and its properties and all. You have to get the 3D conformation of this protein structure, and also all this kind of 3D structure of proteins, everything is possible with the help of bioinformatics tools. So if you want to study the protein activity, the enzymatic activity of a particular protein and all, if you have the 3D conformation, it is very easy to predict the properties of this particular protein. Okay. Then comes pharmaceutical industry and molecular medicine. So pharmaceutical industry is a place where bioinformatics plays a pivotal role. So mainly in drug design. So pharmaceutical industries depend on developing new kind of pharma products that are useful for human race, right? For curing diseases and a lot of other activities. So these subject bioinformatics help the pharmaceutical industry very much. So we'll be discussing these in detail in our future classes. Then information technology, how it is related. So this particular subject, the information that is stored in the databases, that is very huge data, because when you completed the human genome project itself, it has about 3 billion base pair nucleotides. So it's a very huge number. So handling these kind of huge data, we need the support from information technology. So a lot of information technology activities are also happening due to bioinformatics. Okay. Then application database. So with the help of this information technology, we will come to the application side of this databases. So we will be using the data that are available in this databases for research or drug development or whatever activity we plan. So now we will go to the applications of bioinformatics one by one. Okay. So understanding microbial genome. So like we discussed earlier, genome means the understanding the whole genetic material of an organism. So to understand microbial genome or human genome or plant genome, whatever kind of genome it is, you should have the support from bioinformatics, because or else you will not be able to handle this much amount of huge data. So data management and interpretation is very important, and bioinformatics provide you or will support you to get this huge data and handle this huge data, because it will be very difficult for you to find out a location of a particular gene in a very large pool or sea of uh, nucleotides which is available in front of you. Like in human genome project, if you are given the human genome sequence, and if you are asked to find a particular gene manually, it is not at all going to be easy. So when you have sophisticated algorithms and techniques to find out these kind of gene locations, it will help you. So that is one of the applications of bioinformatics. Second one is database development, like we discussed earlier itself. Database development is one of the most important part of bioinformatics. So only if you develop a database or a data bank where you can store all the informations which can be accessed later in a proper way. You are not just dumping the data into the data banks. You should be able to annotate, label it properly, and put it in the databases so that it can be accessed by any person easily. So that is a major application, one of the major applications of bioinformatics. So then coming to the third application, molecular medicine. So developing molecular drugs. So molecular medicine development is another major application of bioinformatics. So if you know the possible conformations of a particular biomolecule. So if you just imagine that you are having a biomolecule like a protein. So based on conditions, it will change its properties, right? Its conformation, 2D structure, 3D structure, everything will be changed based on the conditions that are being provided. So maybe at a particular condition, it will have a property that can be used as medicine, or we can combine a one or two biomolecules or proteins to develop a new drug. So these kind of activities are possible. So we can do all this inside the computer. Okay, this is in silico analysis. We call it as in silico analysis. So using computer, we can analyze the possible combinations or possible conformations of this protein that can be done using computers, and that will help us a lot in developing new kind of medicines. Then personalized medicine development. This is another application of bioinformatics. This is a recent type of application, because we know that individuals do vary from one person to another based on their requirement how to develop medicines. So that is personalized medicines. So if you are given, generally we take a common amount of drugs and dosage, right? So if you are getting a fever, you will be taking a paracetamol 650 usually. Now, is it required? Is the question is whether you require this 650 mg of paracetamol for your body or not, because it will vary from one individual to another, right? So to understand the requirement of a particular person based on his height, weight, genetic characters, everything, all these properties will be considered, and then we will find out whether this particular uh, amount or dosage is required, or whether this particular medicine is the right one for that particular person or not. So that can be done using the help of bioinformatics, personalized medicine development. Then preventive medicine development also. So this is another application where you have to develop medicines that can prevent diseases. It's not curing diseases, medicines that can prevent diseases. So for that you have to go for early diagnosis of the disease condition, right? Before even having getting into the severity of that particular disease, you should be able to prevent that disease from happening. So preventive disease medicine is another field of medical science, which has a lot of application from bioinformatics. Because you use a lot of bioinformatic tools to detect these kind of disease. Like for example, in case of breast cancer, if you have a set of mutations in a particular gene, the possibility of getting this particular breast cancer is more. Understand? So if you can check this particular genes, a set of 7 genes, if you can check and check for any errors, so that can be done with the help of bioinformatics, and then we can predict that there is a possibility of getting this particular disease, and then you can go for the cure in before itself. So thereby it's a kind of preventive medicine development can happen with the help of bioinformatics. Then comes gene therapy. So there are people who are having genetic disorders, right? So genetic disorder is another major issue faced in the medical field. A lot of people are getting genetic disorders. So gene therapy is a method or a treatment method which is very very complicated, though it sounds very easy, but it's a very complicated method by which these genetic disorders can be cured to a particular extent, not completely, but it can be a cure to a particular extent. For this also you have lot of applications with bioinformatics. So you have to identify the gene that is having the mistake, you have to find out the cure, then you have to make the more possible modification using the uh, genes that are capable of functioning properly. So that kind of activities is called gene therapy. So that is also another kind of applications that is from bioinformatics. Then we will come to drug development. So development we have already discussed. Finding out new drugs that are capable of curing diseases, that is one of the most important application, another most important application of bioinformatics. Okay. Then next point, antibiotic resistance. This is another major issue that the world is facing right now, because we are the organisms have started developing resistance against the antibiotics that are currently available. So antibiotics are materials that are capable of uh, preventing or curing diseases, bacterial disease, that is antibiotics. Okay, so if that particular antibiotic stops acting against a particular disease, then it is not at all useful to us. So now what happens is that many of the organisms started developing resistance against these particular antibiotics. So you might have heard of MRSA, multi-drug resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Okay, so Staphylococcus aureus is a bacteria, and it is multi-drug resistant. So if you use common antibiotics against this particular Staphylococcus aureus, it will not function. So if you are infected with a MRSA strain of Staph aureus, then you will find it very difficult to control it. Okay, so to understand and find out cure for these kind of antibiotic resistant or organisms and its properties, you have to have support from bioinformatics. That is another field where bioinformatics is now commonly used to find out and study about antibiotic resistance organism. Then evolutionary studies. So evolutionary studies is also very much useful in that particular field. Also bioinformatics is very useful, because if you want to understand the evolution, because you have the world has evolved through different eras, right? So what happened in each of these era, and what were the kind of changes, the genetic changes, morphological changes, whatever changes that has occurred through this evolution. If you want to study that, you have to have bioinformatics tools with you, because you will be handling a huge data. Okay, because we all know that we originated from a unicellular organism, then it got divided, and initially it started in water, and then slowly it moved to the land, and then it started evolving. So from different levels of evolution, at the end we have reached Homo sapiens, which is said to be the most advanced species on Earth right now, right? So we know that we have evolved from monkeys, chimps, right? Chimpanzees. So if you want to make a comparative study with the chimp genome and human genome and all, you should have a proper support from the bioinformatic tools. Okay, so that is one other field where bioinformatics is being used. Then waste cleanup, it's a general term, but in waste cleanup also in developing transgenic bacteria, or finding a recombinant version, like you might have heard of superbug. It's an bacteria, it's a combination, genetically modified or recombinant bacteria. It was developed by an Indian scientist, Debasis Chakrabarti, and this particular bacteria is capable of degrading oil, hydrocarbons. So oil degrading bacteria, so that is also an application with the help of bioinformatics. So bioinformatic tools were used to identify the genes that are capable of producing materials that are found in different organisms that can step by step degrade the hydrocarbons, and we combine these properties together to develop an organism, a recombinant organism that was capable of degrading oil. So oil eating bacteria, that's what we generally we call these superbugs. Okay, that is also possible with the help of bioinformatics tools. So biotechnology, that also we discussed earlier, any kind of gene related or DNA related or protein related studies now require the help from bioinformatics, because any data which you get, if you want to make a comparison, just imagine you got an organism, you isolated a DNA and you found that there is a new gene. So if you want to make a comparison whether this gene which you found out is already existing or it's a new one, so if you want to make a comparison, you should compare with a database. So you should compare with the whole genetic materials that are present in the world right now, right? So if you do it manually, it's going to take years and years of time, but the current bioinformatic tools, you can get these data within few minutes or few seconds. You will get this data, you just give this data, blast it, and you will get comparative analysis, and by this you can analyze and interpret that whether your gene of interest is a novel one or a new one. So these kind of applications. So I hope you understood the different applications of bioinformatics in this particular slide. uh, we have more number of applications that we are going to discuss in our next slide. Then climate change studies. So how will you study the climate change that is happening, and how bioinformatics is helpful in climate change studies? So climate change will bring about changes in organisms, right? Like if the climate is too hot, obviously the plants will dry out. There will be reduction in water levels in ponds and other things, and so some kind of nutrient accumulation will happen, and some algal blooms can happen. So these kind of changes can be stored, these informations can be stored, and these informations can be used to predict climatic change, and we can predict change in climate by the biological information that is available in the data banks and other things. So in case of climate change also, we have applications from bioinformatics. Then coming to our alternate energy sources. So alternate energy sources is another area where a lot of research work is happening. So we want to get rid of these hydrocarbons which are now commonly used as fuels like kerosene, gasoline, petrol, diesel, etc., coal. So we want to get rid of this kind of uh, fuels, and we have to find out alternative sources of energy. So one of the most important and highly means most commonly discussed alternate energy source is biofuel, developing biofuels. So in case of biofuel development also, bioinformatics plays a pivotal role. Okay. Then crop improvement is another field where a lot of bioinformatics activities are happening. So using the data science, like for example, I will discuss one part like developing a drought resistant plant. So now we can see that nowadays the water level all across the globe is getting reduced. So once the water level is getting reduced, we need to cultivate crops that are drought resistant. So even if you have less amount of water, you should be able to grow this particular crop. So we have to develop hybrid crops or genetically modified crops which can grow in this point of climatic conditions. So with the help of bioinformatics tool, we can identify those genes which will support drought resistance, and we can incorporate it into plants or crops that will grow properly and give us a very good yield at the end. So that is another application of bioinformatics. Then forensic analysis. So crime detection. In forensic science, crime detection is one of the field where bioinformatics have a lot of application. If you have a hair or a blood drop from the criminal or the suspect, you can use that blood drop or hair for identification of that particular uh, suspect, okay, from a crime scene. So a lot of applications are there for forensic science using this bioinformatics tool, especially in criminal detection. Even paternity testing, and paternity, if you have a paternity dispute, uh, that can also be. So the technique is RFLP, restriction fragment length polymorphism technique, is another application of bioinformatic tool which can be used to identify the paternity and all. So in forensic science also, you have lot of applications. Then bioweapon development. So bioweapon development, though it is a negative application, people are using bioinformatic tools to develop weapons like a virus, because initially it was thought that this COVID-19 is a bioweapon developed by Chinese people, right? So things can happen. A lot of researchers are going on this particular field also, because rather than developing nuclear weapons and other things, if you can develop a virus that is capable of infecting a very large number of populations and uh, leading them to severe conditions, then that is having the same effect as a nuclear bomb, right? So a lot of countries are doing their research work in this particular field, developing bioweapons. So that is this area also, a lot of bioinformatic applications are happening. Then insect resistance is another thing which the global demand is going on every time. Recently there was a insect attack in northern part of our country also, Punjab province near to Pakistan and all. So insect attack is happening. So insect attack can be prevented with the help of uh, BT products like BT cotton, BT brinjal. So this is a technique where bacillus, a gene from this particular Bacillus thuringiensis bacteria is taken up and inserted into plants uh, to develop resistance against insects. So once we have resistance against insect, we can protect our crops and crop yields. So in this field also, you have a lot of applications from bioinformatics. Then nutritional quality. So quality, improving the quality of the products, the crops and fruits and everything that is being developed. If you can improve the nutritional quality, like sorry, for example, in case of golden rice. A golden rice is a rice which has vitamin E content incorporated through recombinant DNA technology. So the nutrient capacity of that particular rice is improved or increased. So there also bioinformatics plays a lot of roles in developing these kind of things. Then drought resistance also we have discussed. In veterinary field also, if you have a lot of bioinformatic tools and other things which are being applied. So altogether, if you combine all these things, if you want to get a clear picture, you have to get informations from different areas, combine it together, like in this jigsaw puzzle which is shown in this figure. If you have bits and pieces, you will never get the clear picture of what is happening. So you want to get the bits and pieces, you should be able to arrange them properly, then only at the end you will get the clear picture. So this is one of the most important application of bioinformatics, that is they will collect information from different places, and that too a huge data is being collected from a large number of places, combine them together, and at the end you will get a clear picture or a database where you can access for information, and that information can be used to for the betterment of human life. Understand? So this is one of the uh, the major concept of application of bioinformatics. So now with all these, I hope students you might have understood a basic idea about which all are the fields where bioinformatics is being used, and what are the different ways in which bioinformatics is being used in different fields to better to develop better quality of life for human beings. Students, now you have a clear idea about what are the applications of bioinformatics in different fields. So we'll just go through this discussion once more. What all we discussed, we will just go through it once again. Like the applications include, in case of biological data creation, which is the most important type of application, that is from bioinformatics. It helps to analyze and interpretation of various kind of data, including nucleotide, amino acid sequence, protein structures, everything. So these are all biological data creation, and it will be saved in data banks that can be accessed later. Then comes development of new algorithms. So this is another area where a lot of bioinformatic applications are happening, because we have to come up with new algorithms that can understand and come out with results that a particular researcher or a scientist require from the biological data that is there, right? So it should not be very complicated, it should be made as simple as possible, so that a person who is accessing these biological data, he will be able to access and understand and get the information what he required easily. So for that we have to come up with new algorithms. So algorithm development is also another field area where bioinformatic applications are happening. Then coming to disease diagnosis, this also we discussed. So diagnosis of different kinds of diseases are nowadays very fast, because we have most modern molecular biology techniques. So in these molecular biology techniques also we have applications from bioinformatics. So for example, PCR, FLP, RT-PCR, quantitative real-time PCR, all these kind of PCRs and the molecular diagnostic techniques use these biomolecule means bioinformatics for its detection purpose. So it makes very fast, and the data which you obtain, the diagnostic result which you obtain is more accurate compared to what we used to do earlier. So in case of this COVID-19 outbreak itself, now it's almost 8 months, 6 to 8 months time since the outbreak has started. Within this 6 to 8 month itself, we have come up with new techniques for detection and advanced. We have modified and made this diagnostic kits and everything most fast and reliable, right? So this is all happening with the help of medical field along with the applications of bioinformatics. So here also bioinformatics play a pivotal role, especially in case of quantitative real-time PCR is used for confirmation of COVID cases. So in that case also we are using bioinformatic tools. Okay. Then drug development. Development is one of the most important applications of bioinformatics, because if we had followed the methods which we were using for a very long time for detection of new drugs, it would take 15 to 20 years of time. So even during this COVID outbreak time, we have to come up with a vaccine that is found to be that is going to be effective against this particular disease in a very short span of time, in a record time maybe, because usually a vaccine production process will take about 10 to 15, 20 years time, because we have to go through all the test means the different levels of trials, clinical trials, 1 2 3 like that and all. Then you have to go for human trials, and you have to confirm that it is not having any kind of side effects. So all these process will take a lot of time. So with the help of bioinformatics, we can do in silico analysis. So that will make the drug development process very fast and accurate compared to normal manual methods which we used to follow earlier. So here also we have a lot of applications from bioinformatics. Then coming to gene therapy mutations are easily detected and quantified through next generation sequencing technologies. So sequencing technologies require applications from bioinformatics. You have to sequence and find out any kind of mutations that a particular person or an organism is having, and then we can go for treatment methods. For that also you require bioinformatic applications for detection and treatment method. So in a heterogeneous sample, it's very costly process. Even though it sounds very easy, gene therapy, it's a very costly process, and we have to give the right drug at the right time and dosage to cure these kind of patients using gene therapy methods. For this particular gene therapy also, you have to have bioinformatics application. Then preventive medicines, like we discussed earlier, uh, gene identification by sequence inception and prediction of uh, splice sites, and allows mutation to be corrected easily. So this is another kind. You have to develop medicines for individuals, because whatever medicine which we are getting nowadays is a generalized medicines, that is a common medicine for a common disease, right? So there are cases where individuals have a specific disease, or based on the individual's body weight, body mass, whatever property, genetic property of that particular organism or of that human being, we have to design uh, medicines which can prevent those kind of diseases. Okay, so those are called as preventive medicine. So for that development also we use bioinformatics. So you can write preventive medicine as an application of bioinformatics. And like personalized medicines also, medicines that are specific for an individual, that is also very important uh, tool application of bioinformatics. Okay. Then climate change studies also, I said we can monitor and collect the data, the biological changes and biological data that are happened, biological informations we can collect based on the climatic changes, and we can make a data bank or database based on that, and we can predict the climatic change based on the biological informations, like for example algal blooms. So when there is a drought, there is a possibility of algal blooms in ponds, because the water level goes down, the nutrient is very rich in that particular water, and there is always a possibility of algal blooms. So if you have an algal bloom, you can say that there is a drought, right? So likewise we can means correlate, and using different algorithms we can predict the climatic changes, like what do you call the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, uh, a lot of the carbon sources, everything can be analyzed with the help of bioinformatics. So this is another major applications of bioinformatics. So in agriculture, like we discussed earlier, we can develop drought tolerant or plants and crops that will help us to use more land for agriculture cultivation and crop development, which will be helpful for the human race, right? Meanwhile, we can also come up with genetically engineered crops like golden rice, which is the best example. So the rice which has additional vitamin E supplementing gene inserted into that particular crop. So by consuming that particular crop, we will be that people will be getting vitamin E supplement additional. So these kind of research work need the applications from bioinformatics. With the help of bioinformatics only, we can go for this kind of genetic engineering and genetic modification research and work. Okay, then even though it's a negative application, biological weapon also you can say write it as an application of bioinformatics. Using bioinformatic tools and techniques, nowadays a lot of research is happening in this direction also. Some countries are developing biological weapons like recombinant viruses. Okay, initially it was also said, there was a news saying that the coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, was a creation of Chinese people, uh, and later it was proven wrong. It was not a biological weapon, it occurred naturally. Okay, so these kind of weapons can be created. It is possible because you don't have to invest thousands and millions of dollars in developing nuclear weapons and other things and all. You can modify a particular virus which is comparatively cheap, and you can destroy a country by just uh, spreading this particular disease in that country, right? Okay, so it can also be used as a biological weapon. For this kind of biological weapon creation also, we use bioinformatic tools. So it can also be written as a application of bioinformatics. Okay, students, with this, I hope you have a clear idea about what are the applications of bioinformatics and which all are the areas where this particular subject is being used or applied. And in our future classes, we will be discussing more about the tools that are being used, the bioinformatic tools that are used. Okay, we'll be discussing more about the tools used in bioinformatics in our future classes. Now you can watch a video that is being attached with this class about the applications of bioinformatics. So thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.